Hello, boys and girls. This is your old friend RJ City, and this is the Hollywood Squared Circle, where we talk about wrestling episodes of non-wrestling shows. And today we are talking about Boy Meets World's second wrestling episode, Season 4, Episode 9, entitled 16 Candles and 400-Pound Men. Last time I talked about Boy Meets World's first wrestling episode, The Thrilla in Philla, which only starred one wrestler, Vader, though they established him as the recurring character of Frankie Stechino's father. Vader also had another brief cameo in another Boy Meets World episode called New Friends and Old, but he was just in a suit and he was all like, "Don't worry, Feeny, my kid will get in line." And then he shows up at Cory's house in his gear at the end of the episode and press slams Eric. I'd also like to point out that in the first episode, Vader's real name is Leslie Stechino, although by now, following zero continuity, his name is now Francis Albert Stechino, which is a nice tribute to Francis Albert Sinatra. Now, this episode also stars Jake the Snake Roberts, who's in that phase where he's quasi-religious and has a new snake, legendary referee Earl Hebner, because I guess Dave wasn't available, and Bruce Pritchard in his old character Brother Love as the ring announcer, despite the fact that Brother Love was never a ring announcer and his appearance is incredibly distracting, and it's 1996, so that character wasn't even on TV at this point. Furthermore, the wrestling portion of this episode was actually filmed at a real house show at the Arrowhead Pond in California, and despite the fact that Boy Meets World takes place in Philly, you can clearly see a Mighty Ducks banner in the background. This is also the first of only 4 Boy Meets World episodes without an appearance from Cory's brother Eric. I guess he didn't want to work Vader. Anyway, this is what happens. Topanga's having a Sweet 16 party, and of course she invites Cory because she wants to dance with him at the party because that's what her parents did or some shit. Meanwhile, in their poetry class, Frankie turns out to be a wonderful, beautiful, emotional poet, which is a classic bully trope. But Shawn and Cory are horrible at poetry. Now, Frankie is currently brokenhearted because of some unrequited love. So Cory and Shawn decide to help Frankie with his love in exchange for Frankie helping them with their poetry. So the boys go to Frankie's house to help him with his broken heart, and they think it's over a woman, but it turns out that Frankie is brokenhearted over his dad. You see, Vader hates that his son does poetry and doesn't want to become a wrestler. He's like, "Why can't you be more like your younger brother, Herman?" If I ever had a son, I would absolutely discourage them from being a wrestler. So Cory's like, "You know what? Aha, Frankie, why don't you give your dad some wrestling advice, meet him halfway, and that way he'll love you." Cory's like, "Tell your dad that he sets up the Vader bomb too slowly," which is actually true. Anyway, Frankie tells Vader this, and Vader's like, "You're right, son. That makes so much sense. I love you." And then he's like, "Son, you have to come manage me and give me advice during my upcoming match with Jake the Snake Roberts, because the winner of that match will face Shawn Michaels for the championship in Madison Square Garden," which is not a thing that happened at all. Frankie's like, "Okay, I'll come manage you, but actually I also don't know shit about wrestling, so Cory and Shawn have to come with me too so they can advise me advising you." But of course, the match is the same night as Topanga's Sweet 16. What are they gonna do? Shawn has an idea because he saw an episode of The Flintstones where Fred went back and forth between Pebble's birthday party and some water buffalo stag party, and Shawn's like, "You know what? That's what we'll do," completely ignoring any logistics. Shawn's like, "The only thing is we'll just have to be careful that we wear the correct outfits at the correct locations and switch in and out of them very fastidiously." So the boys and Frankie come out to the ring with Vader during his entrance wearing Vader masks and shirts, which is like, how is this approved? Where is security? Why are we just letting children roam free at ringside? Oh, and Brother Love is doing live commentary on the arena microphone, which is outrageously distracting. Then the match starts, and then Shawn's like, fuck, we gotta get to the party. So they tell Frankie, we gotta go buy a program so we can tell all the wrestlers apart. Because I also get Jake Roberts and Vader confused all the time. So then Cory and Shawn go to the party, and Cory's all like, Topanga, I've been looking everywhere for you, even though there's only like 10 people at the party. Anyway, the roundabout bullshit continues. They go to the party, they stay a little bit, and then they run back to the wrestling show. They watch the match for a little bit, and then they run back to the party. You get the idea. And one time, Cory almost walks into Topanga's party wearing his Vader mask. Close call. Oh, and Cory gives Vader some really good advice. He says, watch out for the DDT. Gee, thanks for that hot tip, kid. I spilled coffee on my shirt. And then Cory goes back to the party, and he's about to dance with Topanga when they look over on the TV, which is broadcasting a house show match, and they see Vader is starting to lose, so they have to run back to the arena. How close is the party to the arena? Are they jogging there every time? And how long or short is this match? Frankie is tending to his ailing father and realizes he's out of wrestling advice to give, so he just gives him some motivational poetry bullshit, and Vader's all like, thanks, son, I love you. And he gets back in the ring, just beats the shit out of Jake Roberts and wins. So Cory and Shawn are like, okay, great, we can go back to the party. So they go back to the party, but everyone has left except Topanga. And she knows exactly what's been going on because she's watched it on TV the entire time. Clearly, they did not think that part through. So Cory explains what they did and why they did it, and Topanga's all like, okay, I forgive you for ruining my Sweet 16 party, but you still owe me a dance. And then Cory's like, hey, Frankie, you fucking owe me, so you better hook me up. So for some reason, Frankie gets them into the empty arena with the setup and the ring and everything is still there, which like never happens. Cory and Topanga get to have their nice dance in the middle of the ring, all while Vader practices his no-look moonsaults off the top rope while his son cheers him on. All right, it's highly dangerous. So that's the episode. I kind of have to say Boy Meets World gets to have their cake and eat it too, because in the first wrestling episode, Cory gets to wrestle and so does Eric. And then in this episode, they're not really wrestling, they're just helping, but it's actual wrestling. However, I have to say, Jake Roberts versus Vader, not that impressive. Not that exciting, very basic, and wrestling-wise, logistically, having the brother love there, it's just one of those things you would never see at one of those shows. Also, they filmed it at an actual house show, and apparently the crowd hated it, and I would too. I paid to see wrestling, and I have to sit there through multiple takes, and I have to see Shawn and Cory running back and forth and wondering what the hell is going on. Who's going to be cheering for Vader when his son and his son's friends accompany him to the ring? There are some highly canned reactions in this. I also want to point out that the title of this episode is 16 Candles and 400-Pound Men. Men plural, meaning more than one man. However, only Vader is the only person in this episode that's anywhere close to 500 pounds. So the title is very, very misleading. And in all honesty, I like their first wrestling episode way better because of one reason, Robert Goulet. So that was 16 Candles and 400-Pound Men. This has been the Hollywood Squared Circle, and I have completely wasted your time.
Guests of the RJ City Show, subscribe to his channel, follow him on social media, and buy his t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/RJ City.